The terrifying truth of Flight 401. Although air travel is considered to be one of the safest forms of travel, it is no secret that there are times when accidents do happen, and these enormous vehicles do fall out of the sky. A rare event, but one that has dire consequences for those who are on board. Though there are skilled pilots who are able to make emergency landings, this is not always the case, as the unfortunate passengers of Flight 401 found out. It was December 29, 1972, and Eastern Airlines Flight 401 was flying over the Florida Everglades. No one knows for sure what happened, but the pilot lost control of the plane, and it crashed out of the sky, killing 101 of the 176 people who were on board. Rescue workers were quick to arrive on the scene, but the situation wasn't good. Though they were able to save a few people, the pilot, co-pilot, and all the crew members had been killed along with most of the passengers. Though the cause of the accident was unclear, Eastern Airlines salvaged the plane, looking for any parts that could be saved and used to repair other aircraft. As it turned out, the Flight L-1011 needed several repairs, and many of the same parts could be saved from Flight 401. It wasn't long before the parts were salvaged, and the Flight L-1011 was repaired and ready for service once again. But strange things started happening. In August of 1973, a crew member by the name of Jessica boarded the plane with the crew she was assigned. It was a hot night in Atlanta, and very humid, making cleaning the aircraft after flights a miserable job. Jessica was known for her no-nonsense attitude and her drive to merely get work done and move on to the next, and the other members of her crew knew it. However, Jessica herself reports that night when she entered Flight L-1011, the temperature of the air inside the plane dropped so severely she could see her own breath. Undeterred, however, Jessica and the crew began cleaning the aircraft. Jessica reports that she was cleaning the ovens in the galley by herself when she suddenly saw the reflection of a person behind her. The reflection was dim, and she states she was unable to make out any features in detail, but she could see enough of the form to determine that whoever it was dressed in a pilot's uniform. Confused, she glanced over her shoulder, but there was no one else in the room with her. She looked back at the oven she had been cleaning once more, and this time the reflection of the figure appeared to be right behind her. Jessica reports that she spun around as quickly as she could, but there was still no one else in the room. Terrified, she ran out of the galley to find the rest of the crew members. She reports she was afraid they would think she was crazy, but decided to tell them what happened anyway. And to her surprise, several of the other crew members stated that they had seen the same thing. And that was just the beginning. For as long as Flight L-1011 was in service with Eastern Airlines, many different crew members, staff members, and even passengers reported seeing strange activity taking place. One pilot reported walking into the cockpit of the plane late at night, only to discover that another pilot was already sitting in his chair. He noted that the air in the cockpit was considerably colder than it had been when he had left. Confused, the pilot asked the man what he was doing, but there was no response from the individual at all. Once again, the pilot asked him what he was doing. At that moment, all the lights in the cockpit came on, and in the reflection of the glass, the pilot could clearly see that the man was Captain Bob Loft, the captain of Flight 401 the night that it had crashed. The pilot recoiled in terror, but at that very moment, Captain Loft vanished into thin air. All the lights in the cockpit returned to normal, and the temperature inside the room rose immediately. Passengers aboard the plane have also reported seeing and hearing things that they cannot explain. Some have reported seeing flight attendants walk through the cabin, only to learn that all the flight attendants were at the front of the plane. Others have stated that people who appear to be passengers will suddenly appear right next to them in their seats, or that they can be seen walking up and down the aisles as well. Some have even stated that a curse rests over the plane, and anyone who falls asleep during a flight will be plagued with the most terrifyingly vivid nightmare of the plane crashing to the ground. It was a genuine tragedy what happened to Flight 401 that fateful winter night so many years ago. But it has become clear that those poor souls who fell from the sky and lost their lives that night are not at rest. They are doomed to be attached to Flight 401 for eternity.